I'm ESPN NFL draft analyst, sideline reporter Todd McShay, who joined us recently on the Deseret First Credit Union hotline. Todd, it's about time we featured a heralded quarterback from the Big Blue of Swampscott High School in Massachusetts on this show. So thanks for being that guy and hanging out with us today.
You did your research.
That I did. And you have done your research on Zach Wilson. And we're very interested to hear about what his path in the NFL draft will include over the next coming days. So let's start there. We recently confirmed with Zach, we talk with him every week, that the Jacksonville Jaguars sent him a playbook. They've been essentially testing him, trying to, find out everything they possibly can. What's the likelihood that Zach Wilson actually goes number one to the Jaguars?
I think it's a very small percentage, but I'll say this, and I've talked to Urban Meyer multiple times. They're doing their due diligence on all these quarterbacks, but I think especially Trevor Lawrence from Clemson and Zach. And the one thing that, not to dig too deep into our conversations, but they've been very impressed with his mental aptitude and how quickly he picks things up. And, I think it's, if everyone in the country thinks it's 100% deal done that Trevor Lawrence is the number one overall pick, I don't know that Jacksonville is quite there yet. And I'm telling you, they have been digging deep into Zach to try to figure out if he could be the guy. And then if it's not number one to Jacksonville, then it gets interesting. I mean, that's where the draft, to me, kind of starts if Lawrence is number one, as most people presume at this point. And the Jets have a very difficult decision to make. Are they going to move Sam Darnold, their existing quarterback, and get some and pick at number two, get some trade value for Sam Darnold and draft Zach Wilson? I believe Zach will be the pick at number two. Or will it be moving out of number two to a team like Atlanta, Carolina, San Francisco, trying to move up to go get Zach Wilson? So I would say the odds-on favorite to be the number two pick in this draft is Zach Wilson.
And that's really interesting. And I know that Mel Kiper has not wanted to do the trades in his mocks. You finally convinced him, which is really fun, right? Because of what you said.
Took 15 years.
Just 15 years. Jeez. It's taken a long time to come around. But that Zach will go number two, that's really interesting. And we've been talking about, well, his ascension from just winning the job at BYU to being a number two pick is just incredible. So in 2019, you were in Provo for the USC overtime win, and then BYU lost the next week to Washington as the sideline reporter. What have you seen since seeing him in person to now? Because there's been a tremendous leap.
There has been. And listen, you guys know just as well as I do, he's always had the talent. It was just a matter of developing and staying healthy. He had the shoulder injury and the hand injury. And this past year, he comes in and obviously COVID and everything going on in a really unique year. And he just played lights out. And you can listen, if you want to pick holes in him, you can say that the competition wasn't great. And I get that. It's not like playing, if you're Mac Jones from Alabama, it's not like playing in the SEC. It's not like playing the Big Ten schedule if you're Justin Fields from Ohio State or even Clemson. But I just watch him in terms of his ability to extend plays, his feel in the pocket, and then his ability to throw off platform. And it reminds me, I hate throwing the Patrick Mahomes thing on him because it's almost like a curse to say that he's going to be the next Patrick Mahomes. I'm not saying that, but he's got a little bit of that in him. And he's got a little bit of Drew Brees in him as well in terms of being sudden and knowing that he's not the tallest quarterback in the world and that he's got to change his arm angles and he's got to find his own passing windows. And he does a lot of that on tape. I love his ability to throw, as I said, off platform when he's on the move. I think it was play 6 of the Boise State game, the sixth offensive play for BYU in that game, when he rolls out to the left and he's off balance and he's got to turn his hips and throw the ball, and he hits an out route about 15 yards down the field, and the ball is right where it has to be. Perfect placement. And that's what he can do. And that's what you're looking for in the league is guys that if the initial play breaks down, can you extend, especially when you're young and you don't have all the answers mentally in terms of what defenses are throwing at you.
ESPN NFL insider and draft expert Todd McShay with us on BYU Sports Nation. We're discussing Zach Wilson, and where he's going to go in this draft. You brought up the comparisons to Patrick Mahomes and a little bit of Drew Brees. Two of your colleagues at ESPN, notably David Pollack and Ryan Clark, compared Zach Wilson to Aaron Rodgers. How would you assess that comparison?
I think we're all saying the same thing. You could throw Deshaun Watson in there, Baker Mayfield, any guys that can move around. And it starts with sensing pressure. So if there's pressure from the outside, are you feeling it without your eyes dropping? And are you able to climb the pocket? And if it comes from the inside, are you able to slide and move with, again, your eyes up and looking down the field? And then knowing when to pull the trigger and knowing when, all right, this play's broken down, it's time for scramble rules. We've got to get outside the pocket. We've got to, I've got to take off running, or I've got to get moving so that my receivers have time to get open down the field. And I think that to me is his best trait. And then obviously the ball placement and his accuracy are hugely important in the NFL and any level. So those two things, you can say whether it's Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, Aaron Rodgers, Baker Mayfield, they all have kind of similar skill sets, varying degrees. I mean, no one's Mahomes. Mahomes is the best. Aaron Rodgers is right up there. But he's got some of those same traits, and that's why we're talking about him as potentially and probably the number 2 overall pick in this draft.
Which would be the highest BYU Cougar ever drafted. That'd be wild. Do you feel like
really?
Top 5, I guess Jim McMahon and Zig Ansah, those are the top of the peak at number 5. So when you look at,
I learned something.
There you go. It only took us a few minutes here. When you look at Zach Wilson and the schedule, obviously it was set up to be much tougher. 6 Power 5s, they all dropped out. The pandemic obviously blew up schedules. BYU played the best schedule it could, including taking a midweek game at Coastal and whatnot. Do you feel like Zach Wilson took advantage of that? Because if BYU plays 6 Power 5s and still has a good season, ends up 9-4, I'm not sure he's getting top 5 love, but maybe I'm wrong. What do you think, Todd?
Well, you can only project, right? You can only project. But what I see on tape, it kind of, I don't want to say it doesn't matter who he's playing, but you see the skill set and you see the traits, and that's what you're looking for when you're evaluating a quarterback. And then you've got to dig into, the personal character, the toughness, the leadership, and all the intangible things that you can't see on tape. So, listen, I would love to have seen him in an SEC schedule or to see him against, a bunch of Power 5 teams. I would have loved to, because it would make my job easier. But it's hard to get done with his film assessment and to look at him and say, this is not a first-round quarterback and someone that doesn't belong somewhere, at least in the top 10.
What's the lowest you can possibly see Zach Wilson dropping in this 2021 NFL draft?
Jeez. I want to say 2. Because I've kind of staked my claim on it. But I would say, the lowest would be 8 to Carolina. You've got Atlanta picking at 4, Carolina at 8, San Francisco at 12, New England at 15. All of these teams need a quarterback. So, and we've seen almost every single year that I've done the draft, at least one team and usually multiple teams move up to go get quarterbacks. So if Atlanta really wants to go get the heir apparent to Matt Ryan, they're going to probably move up a spot or 2, or they're going to be set on Trey Lance from North Dakota State. Carolina is desperate for a quarterback, so they're going to. I'll be shocked if they don't move up on draft day to go get a quarterback. So, I think 8 would be the doomsday scenario for Zach Wilson, but I can't see him getting that far.
We don't have the typical NFL combine in Indianapolis with everyone out running and testing. So how much do you think a player can rise or fall due to the unique nature of this year's and last year's lack of NFL combine?
This time of year, it really comes down to pro days and interviews. That's it, because there's no combine. And the combine sometimes can be a detractor because you get too caught up in the numbers. But the two biggest things, and everyone kind of overlooks it because everyone wants to see the vertical jump and the 40-yard dash. The 2 main reasons why they started the combine was to get everyone in one place, so you didn't have to send doctors all around and you didn't have to go do interviews all around the country. You could just get them in one place to do it and save a lot of money. It was just more efficient. 4 days, you're in there, you get medical, you get everything from the interview standpoint, psychological, and then you're able to get some workout numbers as well. So again, sometimes it can detract, sometimes it can be a positive for your evaluation, but the tape to me is 70, 80% of the pie. Then you got to figure out the medical, which teams are probably spending a lot more money this year, having to go around the country to test these guys, and then the psychological aspect as well. And the tricky part is the Senior Bowl is the only place since the beginning of the season where NFL scouts can actually sit face to face and talk to a player. And they still had to have a thing in between them. So it has been a struggle, and I know talking to a lot of different scouts, it has been a real struggle this year. Talking on Zoom and doing everything the way everyone's doing in business now, trying to figure out who these guys are and what their real character is and their personalities are, and trying to fit that into what they want in an NFL team.
Todd McShay of ESPN with us on BYU Sports Nation. We know Wilson is clearly on the radar, projected top 2 pick, but BYU does have 6 different guys with a quote-unquote pro day invitation. So who else really has piqued your interest coming from BYU, Todd?
Brady Christensen is interesting, the offensive tackle. I mean, he's big, he's got length, and the thing I like, 2 things I like about it is he's technically sound. He's been well coached there at BYU, you can tell. And his hand usage, he's got really strong hands. And when he latches onto a defensive player, he does a really good job. And I think, he's not one of the elite tackles in this class, but I think he's going to be somewhere in that 4th, 5th round range. Tonga, the defensive lineman, is it Kyrie's? You guys know how to pronounce it. Kyrie's Tonga? Yeah, he's going to be a late round pick, I think, as well. He's got some versatility. He played 5 technique there at BYU, kind of, between the guard and the tackle. I think he could play inside as a 3 technique. He's got enough quickness, and I think he could be a value player as well. And then going down the line, you got Dax Milne, a wide receiver, and then Matt Bushman's another guy who unfortunately had the injury this past year. But he doesn't have great speed, but he's a complete player otherwise. I had a 3rd, 4th round grade on him coming into the year prior to the injury. We'll see what happens. He'll probably be a late round pick, but he catches the ball so well. He's so reliable. He knows how to use his body to shield defenders, and he'll block. And there's not a lot of tight ends in college football now that you can work in line that will actually line up and go block for you.
There's a reason they call Matt Bushman Honey Hands, because he catches everything. So
he catches everything,
he catches everything for sure. Todd, we know how busy you are. We thank you for your time today. And we knew that we were in for a treat when we talk about a guy that is best friends with Dave Portnoy, and you put up with Mel Kiper. So thanks for being with us today.
I got a lot of headaches in my life.
You got to take care, man. We wish you the best.
All right, take care, guys.